everyone, welcome back to another video. This video I will be playing Bloons TD 6, but I won't actually be reviewing it. This will just be the background, me playing it in the background. I will be talking about basically a time paradox, you could call it that. So my friend was reading a book and she told me about it. It was basically her reading a book. Wait, no. Excuse me, I'm having massive brain farts. But, so she read the book, and basically, it's about this doll and some time travel islands. But the main thing that stuck out to me was the fact that, how do I say this? She gets a phone call from someone, and that someone happens to be her from the future. And that really set my mind to working. Because if that was in the future, that creates a time paradox. Meaning that most likely that this is not the first occurrence of this, and there have been constant loops of the same people in the past, and this is just part of this loop. Double meaning that it might be impossible to escape the time loop, and that's what we're here to do today. I want to see if we can successfully escape the time loop. But here's the thing. It's extremely difficult, and I don't know if it's possible. Because everything I'm saying is just a theory. But first we'll start off with the complications of it. Basically, if this is a time loop, and if you get a call from yourself in the future, that means you're going to live into the future for the rest of forever. You're gonna live until that time in the future, at least. We know for a fact that you cannot die until after the phone call. So you basically have a shield of, invincibility. You can still get hurt, so much so that you can't move or anything like that, but you won't be in such bad condition that you die. At least not until you give the phone call. Because we don't know what's after that. We just know that you get a phone call from your future self. I mean, let's say you try jumping off a bridge. That's like suicide. Don't do that. That's very bad. But if you were to do that, then you wouldn't die. You might be in a hospital the rest of your life, but you wouldn't die. Unless you do that after the phone call that you give. Or really anything. Chances are, this is just a theory, but it's very possible. I believe, and this is all a theory, just keeping that as a reminder. I believe that, let's say, something that was, could theoretically kill you, like a train. Something would happen to the train that would make it stop before it hits you if you were to get in front of a train. Or, let's say, if someone was holding a gun at you because, they were robbing you, which, again, hopefully this never happens. All of this is very bad. None of that, you should never do any of this. But if that were to happen, the gun might not shoot unless that it's after the call. That's just my theory. Because I don't think you can break the time loop that way. It just doesn't make sense to me. It might make sense to one of you, and if so, I'd love if you explained it. But it doesn't make sense to me. So, my thinking, and again, I'm not positive, but what I believe is true, is that no matter what you do, you'll survive until the phone call. The second part of this is I also think you cannot avoid this phone call. Since you give the phone call to yourself in the future, that means that it's going to happen sometime in your life. So, even if you don't go out of your way to, discover a way for this phone call to happen, you're still going to end up making the call. We don't know why. We don't know how. We just know that you will. And that is also tied into the fact that no matter how you act, you'll still end up giving the phone call. Because let's say you're like, oh, if I act all goofy for the next 2 years of my life, that won't happen. But the problem is, you're wrong. Because let's say, not saying this is what happens in the book, but let's say that you get the phone call 1 year later in the future, in the book, like, when they're adult. Let's say that you're going to be goofy for the rest of your life instead. And, like, that means that the phone call that you get is going to be the goofy phone call. So no matter what, that would be the phone call you get if you were to be goofy. It's so confusing. It's really confusing if you think too much into it, which I definitely have. But that's kind of what I do, and I really like doing that. However, so basically you're... Not the however yet. Not yet. So, you're stuck in a time loop, pretty much. A time loop with no way to ever get out. Which kind of sucks. But see, you're in this time loop. Can't die. No matter how you act, it'll happen. If you get injured, then most likely you're calling from like a hospital. So it's all very confusing. However, if you follow me so far, I think I might have thought of a way to break the time loop, but it is not simple. It's basically impossible. I believe that to break the time loop, you must die before you get the call. But the problem with that is that you can't die before you get the call, because you wouldn't know about the call until you've already gotten the call. So you couldn't do that trying to avoid it, because that means you've already gotten the call. So somehow you'd have to die. This is very sad, but you'd have to die before you get the call, and you wouldn't know about it. But now, if I've told you, most likely, let's say you were stuck in a time loop, it's probably too late for you now since you know about the call. But you're not going to get in the call. That's just a theoretical fake. Oh no. Okay. I thought that was... It's very confusing. I've confused myself oh so much just now. But I'm sure it makes sense to someone. But if you agree with this theory, then that's awesome, because I agree with it. But if you agree with this, then you should totally subscribe, because I'm going to be posting more stuff like this in the future. This is just one of the smaller things. It could have been bigger, but I skipped over some details to not bore you and waste an hour of your time talking about a stupid time loop in a book. But I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.